it is important to really understand the hindrances and to watch your mind and see that these strong hindrances do not take control. Once they take control of your mind, then the mindfulness is not there, it becomes very weak. So we talk about the attachment, how this attachment comes about. This lubhacita, it has other meaning, similar meaning. It has desire, longings, and other words that can explain lubhacita. So, how does it come about? How does it arises in our mind, our consciousness? And why? Why does it arise in our consciousness? That is what a meditator should be aware of. And it's the first subject of the Dhammanupassana, fourth foundation of mindfulness. To know that this is the hindrances, just as you know that this is the enemy, so you have to be prepared so that the enemy don't attack you. So why do we have? How does it comes about? It comes about because we are born. We are born with the sixth sense consciousness, sixth sense base. Born with the I consciousness. So therefore, we are able to see the world around us. We see colors, form, shape. So we can see them because we are born with the I base. And these objects are there. They are not created by anybody. They are there by nature. They are already there. And the things that you see, pleasant and unpleasant objects, it is actually the objects are neutral. The reality of the object is they are neutral, but our perception, the perception that arises as we register in our memories, and we start to differentiate them between pleasant objects or unpleasant objects. Depend on many other factors as well, like the roots. If there is attachment roots, and we are able to perceive the object is pleasant, it's alluring, it's pleasant, it's a very nice object. Therefore, the mind wants it. Attachment arises. Wants it because it brings pleasure to the mind, brings joy, brings happiness. So therefore, attachment arises. So you want to have the things, and once you have it, then there is this clinging on. You want to hold on to it. Do not want to lose it. So that's what attachment is. And there are various degrees of attachment. Various degrees. A strong attachment, middle attachment, slight attachment. Again, depending on our perception of the objects, how alluring is the object. If the object that we see is not considered very pleasant to us, then therefore the attachment will not be strong. Will not be strong. Sometimes attachment arises, it's not strong. And so the feeling, because it's not a very pleasant object, so the feeling becomes equanimity feeling. So there are two types of feeling arises by way of attachment. Two types of feelings. pleasant feelings according to their various degree, and of course neutral feelings. You're just attached to it, even though it doesn't give you much happiness or joy, but you're just attached to it. Like you're attached to your old bicycle, for example, or your old car, takes you where you want to go. Even though it breaks down once in a while, you need repair. You're not very attached to it because it's a very old car, 20 years old car or 15 years old car. But it's a good car, you like it. But it doesn't give you a lot of pleasure. If somebody will come and say, hey, I like your car. No, I exchanged my new car, a 3 years car with you. Now what would you say? You of course would say, okay, no problem. You can take my old car, old shaker, and give me your new car. And you'll be very happy. So that depends. That depends on our attachment. It's very strong. When we consider that thing as very precious to us, we will consider probably our loved ones as very precious to us. So attachment becomes very strong. And when our attachment becomes very strong, then it is like you want to see that they are happy, you want to see that they pass the exam, you want to see that they have a good future, you want to see that they are happy. Most of all, they're happy, they're healthy, they're not sick, they are well. And of course, you want them to love you. Now, when the attachment is very strong, troubles the mind. When this attachment consciousness arises in our mind, we become unstable. It means to say that we don't see things with detachment as what it is. Nature of the children, you can't expect them to be very clever when they are not, to have all A's when they can't do it. So we do expect a lot of things, that they grow up to be loving, to be healthy, to take up sports, take up music, or whatever it is. And if there's failings, then it brings pain. So therefore, attachment has a lot of expectation, and it brings pain. It brings a lot of fear that you lose what you have, the precious things that you have. For example, money could be very precious. If you were suddenly to lose your money, it would bring you a lot of pain because of the attachment. You're very attached to the money, or very attached to the house, and the house were to be burned down. It brings a lot of mental pain because of the attachment. But the attachment, when you say it brings pain, but the attachment itself, there is no painful feeling. Only when it is lost, then arises the ill will in your mind. The ill will, the sadness, the anger, frustration, that brings the pain. Attachment itself do not bring pain. Attachment itself brings pleasant feelings and equanimity feeling. It does not bring it itself, the consciousness itself, when it arises in the mind, there is no pain. So therefore, one way for us to seek happiness is to be attached. So I constantly search for things, search to be attached, to get married, to have children, to have property, to have parents who love us, brothers and sisters, or auntie. We are very attached to the auntie who loves us, or the uncle who cares for us, because they bring us a lot of happiness. So we are attached to these things. They bring us a lot of happiness. So therefore, am I constantly attached? We do not see the suffering that comes with attachment. We do not see the pain that comes with attachment. We just see the happiness. We just see the happiness. And And when we got something that we want, give us so much pleasure, so much happiness. But the nature of change, and if it is a sudden change, if the things that we love are lost, or our loved one pass away, it brings a lot of sorrow, a sudden change. If it is a gradual change, then you do feel pain, but it is not so much pain. Now again, it is not the attachment mind. It has changed to the ill will mind. Why is this ill will? This is ill will because of the attachment. If there's no attachment, there's no ill will. You say, why? You're attached to something. You want to be young, but if you can't, if you're old, then if you're angry, you suffer. Or you want to be handsome or pretty, but if you're not, because of the attachment, wanting something, and if you can't have, then you feel disturbed, then you're not happy, then you're sad, and you're constantly changing after something that you don't have, you can't have. The various degree of attachment. Now, if it is the attachment that is not so heavy, then it's quite alright. You just attach to something, you just like to eat food, okay. Certain food that I like to eat, after lunchtime I just go and have my meal. I don't see any suffering in there. I just go, I got the money, I work, I got the money, I go and enjoy even a $10 meal. Just go in and enjoy my food. Maybe half an hour of taste, enjoyment in the aircon. And then I go back to work. But then, by the time when I go back to work, if I don't like the office, then I probably feel not happy. But when you're eating, and you're not thinking about your work, you're not thinking about disturbing things, you're actually happy in your eating. Actually happy when you actually enjoy the tasting consciousness. Something that you like to eat, the taste, and when you taste it, you eat it, you swallow it, and you feel your stomach is okay, it's fulfilling, it's nice, comfortable, satisfied, then happy. So attachment brings happiness, but you don't feel the suffering because I can afford it. It's just $10 I spend, so it's no deal. You don't feel the pain after the attachment. There are many such types of attachment that we do not feel the pain. You love your children, you look at them and you're very happy. Especially a young mother who is a young child, and she feels so happy just to look at the child sleeping, or just to touch the child, or just to bathe the child. She doesn't see the pain, doesn't feel the pain at all. She feels a lot of happiness. And you say probably, okay, this child grew up, I want to have a second one. She doesn't see the suffering, she doesn't see the pain. She feels the happiness. The happiness of equanimity arises with the attachment. We don't see the suffering, so therefore the attachment sometimes builds up, becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Then, when attachment is very strong, then you feel the pain. It becomes very strong. Then it becomes ill will consciousness. So we have unpleasant feeling. It arises with unpleasant feeling. Then you feel the pain. Attachment itself is no pain. It only has pleasure or equanimity. That is why our mind constantly searching for things, always wanting to be attached. Fall in love, got married. Only thing is when we think of what we want and it turns into something that we don't want, that only brings a lot of pain, it brings a lot of unhappiness, dissatisfaction. But it is the same all the time. It's the nature of this mind that is constantly searching, every one of us, until, of course, you reach the third stage of sainthood. Then you don't look for worldly happiness. You look for happiness in the Brahma world, to be born in the pure abodes. But in Arahants, you reach perfect state, and there's no more attachment. Mind is total peace. So an Arahant mind is never disturbed. There's never ill feeling. There's never ill will. There's never anger, hatred, jealousy, envy, dissatisfaction. There is never fear. There's no more attachment in the mind of an Arahant, a perfect one. Is totally peace. An Arahant mind arises with what? Arises with equanimity and pleasant feeling. There's only two types of feelings that arises in the Arahant mind. It is not a block of wood. Don't think that when one attains Arahantship, it becomes a block of wood. No. He still has the senses. He's still coming into contact with these objects around this world. Seeing object, hearing object, tasting object, smelling objects. The body sensation objects. When you touch the aircon, when you're hot, you have cold, you feel nice. When you're cold, very cold, and you come to a warm place, you feel very nice. Consciousness. An Arahant has still consciousness. It's not dead. It's not a piece of wood. It's consciousness. But mind is totally balanced, totally peace, total happiness, because there is no attachment. So therefore there is no ill will, whole mass of unpleasant feeling do not arise in the Buddha or Arahant. Is perfectly at ease or at peace. And as a meditator, we are slowly going towards that direction. It is a roadmap, all there for us to see, for us to understand. In theory, at least. But as you practice, you get into Dhammanupassana, the fourth foundation of mindfulness. You get deeper into meditation. You go directly to experience the nature of this world around us and in us. What is this world around us? They are objects, nothing but objects. Nothing but material form. Even though we put a lot of concepts and mix them all up like Lujia, and we get very confused and no longer can distinguish between what is what, reality, or what is reality, what is not reality. We create a lot of concepts, and concept plus concept and plus concept, and tie ourselves in a knot that we can't see clearly what happened. We only know we are suffering, but why are we suffering? We do not know. A lot of people do not know why they have so much suffering, so much tension, so much stress, so much ill will, so much unhappiness, why there's no peace of mind, why are there so much fear, why are there so much unsatisfactoriness in the mind. Cannot understand anymore because they're confused. You go back to the basic, what nature really is. To understand them, you go back to the reality, to the basic nature of the world around us, the world inside us. Consciousness. So if a person is born blind, so how? There's no seeing consciousness. So there is no attachment arises from seeing consciousness. A blind person do not have attachment to seeing objects. He has no attachment to color, to form, to shape. No, he has no attachment to that. Because he cannot see. And if he cannot see, he cannot differentiate between these objects that are pleasant or unpleasant. So there is no craving arises. Would you say it is good? It's better to be blind. It is not so. It's not better to be blind. No, it's just your karma. It's being born blind. It's the resultant of unwholesome karma. And if the desire, the craving is not strong in the seeing, and the craving becomes strong in the hearing, in the smelling, in the tasting. So you could see that blind people, they have some special ability. When they can't depend on their eye to see, then they have to depend on their hearing. Then their hearing becomes very keen and sharp and clear. Then they depend on other senses to supplement. We say 補分, what they can't see. And their smell and their touching. They develop their senses on the other senses that is available. The seeing consciousness itself, they are always equanimity feeling, just a resultant. The objects, there's objects. When they come into contact, the eye waves arising, the seeing consciousness. And the first moment, thought moments of the mind process, the consciousness of seeing itself has no pleasant or unpleasant feeling. It has neutral feelings. It's a seeing. Only when they get into the other, they call it kana, mental states, where they start to feel the objects. Then comes the pleasurable objects, when there's investigation into the objects. What is this object? Oh, it's pleasant. Then comes the registration. Then it goes into the karma formation. Then he enjoys the object, resultant objects. It enjoys. See, this is nice food. This is nice smell. This is nice music. Except the body. An object touches our body. There is pleasurable or there is painful feelings. Because our body is very gross. Like an aircon, and once it touches our air consciousness, even though you close your eyes, but your body feel it. The whole body, except your hair can't feel. Your body surface, they feel. From your toe, they feel. Because the nail cannot feel. They feel it. Likes or dislike arises. If it's too cold, dislike. If it's not cold enough, it's warm, dislike. It's just nice, then there's a like. Arises in your mind, there's a like. There's a craving arises in your mind. You say, okay, that's good. Now I can meditate. Now I feel cooling, I feel nice, I can meditate. We can't cut off the attachment all at once. No. But as a meditator, we need to recognize that this attachment do not lead to cleaning, becomes strong, and becomes very strong, cause a lot of pain, disturbances, mental unbalance, and you find very difficult to meditate when the hindrances is strong. The hindrances is strong. I like to go a bit further. What is this combination in this eye consciousness? For eye consciousness to arise, this one moment, we call it eye consciousness. What is it made up of? It's made up of 7 universal mental states or mental factors. For it to arise, there must be contact. This must be seen. There must be objects around you. There must be contacts. The eye consciousness. And when it arises, always arises with feelings. But in this case, it is neutral feelings. There is perception. In this case, it's a pleasant object. The mind, it has past, present, and future. But when it goes through the eye consciousness, it must always have present object. It must really see the things. Right? Sometimes you don't see with your eye. It goes directly to your mind. So it's not through your eye consciousness. It's through your mind, directly through the mind door. The mind eye. You see a lot of things in your mind, but not through your eye. That's different. It's through the mind, not through the eye consciousness. There's perception, perceiving the object. There's volition. Then there is this actions. An object touches eye senses, there is action, motion, action. One-pointedness means the mind must go towards the object. There is light faculties. In other words, your eye is alright, you can see. You can see the eye faculties. Or life faculties, there is life there. Mental life, physical life, the two types of life, they are different. Finally, there is attention. When that's directed towards the object, which I say now in your metta, now direct your attention to your loved ones. Direct your attention to the yogis, meditator in the hall. Direct attention to all beings in the universe. Attention. If there's no attention, there's no eye consciousness. So you miss up one, there's no eye consciousness arises. When eye consciousness arises, 7 mental states are present in the mind. But it does not perform karma. There's no cause and effect. It's just an eye consciousness. But you do not know anything. It's just conscious that there is an object now touching the eye. You do not know anything until it goes into the other thoughts moment and get into the 7 karma formation, where there is jhavanas. Then only there comes this knowing what you see, pleasant or unpleasant. Then the craving arises. Craving arises. We have a lot of craving arises in our mind whole day. But we can still meditate. It's craving, we can still meditate if it is not too heavy. Unless it is too heavy, the craving is very strong, then we can't meditate. For example, if we have to go around the whole world doing business, we have no time to meditate. If we are very busy all the time, we have no time to meditate. When we are attached to doing something, we are attached to doing to finish something, and if you have very strong ambition to be a billionaire, you can't meditate. You're working all the time. If you're striving for a target, you can't meditate. If attachment is very strong, then you can't meditate, because the attention for this rising and falling is not there. The attention is all to the things connected to your attachment. You can't meditate, so it becomes a hindrance. In other words, your spiritual life, even you do meditate, it doesn't go deep, because there's big pulling on to the other side. Keep on pulling to the other side. And so the strength to the spiritual life is very weak. But do not give up. We still got to do our best, even though you have a lot of attachment. We still got to try at least once a week. Try to bring our mind, practice detachment, lessen whatever attachment we have, getting to know what type of attachment, how strong they are, getting to know how we're supposed to deal with them, what are the methods to deal with them, so that we could become more peaceful. We're not pulling all over the place because of running all over the place because of a strong attachment, or getting a lot of anger and frustration, or ill will, fear, hatred because of our attachment. Sit still. Learn to understand. So when there's Dhammanupassana, when there's a lot of attachment arises in your mind when you meditate, then you must know. The Buddha say, there is this attachment in my mind, or it has gone away, there is no more attachment in my mind at this moment. How this attachment comes to be, meditator should also learn to know how to take care of it, so that it won't bother you, it won't disturb your mind, it won't cause so much pain and unhappiness. Like I say, attachment itself does not give rise to unpleasant suffering, unpleasant feeling, to pain. Attachment itself do not produce suffering. At the moment when it arises in your mind, but only when you can't get what you want, when you have something you do not want, or when you have something, strong attachment, the fear of losing, they produce pain. These are simple attachment to food, attachment to our car. We clean our car. If it's a new car, we polish it, keep the car very clean. You look at your new car and the car very clean, you feel very happy, you feel a sense of pride. Or your home. Plant a very nice plants all over, keep your house clean, paint your house, make it look new. When your friend comes, they admire your house, have a brand new cushion in the dining hall, gives you a lot of joy. Just by looking at it, gives you a lot of joy. This is my home, my house, such a clean house, and furniture so neat, so nice and comfortable. Gives you happiness. But make sure you're not too attached to them. Once there's a meditator and he says that, Brother James, I can never go for retreat. I have to go 1 week. I say, why? I just asked the question, curious to know why. He said, because if I go there, who is going to look after the house? Who's going to clean the house? Who is going to make sure nobody comes in and steal the things in my house? And he said, no, I meditate in my house. So attached to a house. She could never leave a house for 7 days. He said that we could attached to the children. That is understandable because they need us. Need to feed them, need to cook for them, need to see that they study, take care of them. But a house take care of itself, right? Of course there'll be some dust around when they come back. Do a bit of cleaning. Well, there's attachment. Attachment to a lot of things. Material things in material things. Material things we know, all these things. There are material, house, car, children, and wife. Of course we need to take care of them. A responsibility. but it brings pain, right? So we should not be too attached. We should care, but not attach. We should love with kindness, but not attach. Take care of them with kindness, but not attach too much, not clinging. Otherwise, attachment always there's expectation. If it is not met, it brings a lot of pain. So attachment is the first one in the unwholesome mental states. We always say greed, hatred, delusion, and is unwholesome, of course. It covers various degree of attachment or desire, longings, or clinging. Characteristic is grasping an object, meaning to say attachment, desire, it grabs to an object. Grabs means reaching out to catch. Grasping function is sticking, as like meat stick to a hot pan without water or cooking oil. If a hot pan, you throw a piece of meat, it's stuck to the pan. So that is the function of craving. When you see something and once you like to have, that is the function of craving. You know that mind is craving for the things that you see, you smell, taste, touch. You see a very nice dress and you say, I must have that. If not I die, I must have that. Grasping, it is like sticking. Function is like I must have. Then you do whatever necessary to get it. What is the cause? Cause is seeing enjoyment. You only see pleasure and joy and happiness, but you never see the pain. That is why attachment is so strong in our mind, because we don't see the pain, because we don't see the suffering that comes with attachment. We only see the happiness, but we don't see the suffering. And the suffering is what? Painful feeling is what? Ill will. Attachment brings ill will. Attachment brings a lot of selfishness. Attachment brings a lot of jealousy, envy. Attachment brings a lot of pride, ego. So as a meditator, we need to recognize these things as they really are, mental states. Meditation, we deal with the mind, because mind itself arises all those things that are wholesome and all those things that are unwholesome. Mind itself brings the happiness or the pain. Mind itself brings a lot of peace and calmness and all that is happiness and joy. Mind itself brings a lot of sorrow. All that begins in the mind, as the Buddha says. And the only way is to deal directly in the mind. What is this in the mind? It's the phenomena, how it arises, why it arises, how I can manage it, and what do you want? The direction of the mind. Once you can figure it out, or you can understand it, then you have a clear road map and the direction to move forward. Even though you are pulled back, sometimes you stumble, but you have the road map. If you keep walking, one day you reach the destination. Maybe not of this life, there are future lives. Life is not just one. In the Buddha's teaching, they are continuous. The journey, you've got to keep on moving until wisdom arises, insight arises. Once you can see reality, perceive things around you, things inside you, can understand how suffering arises, you can understand way out of suffering, you can understand how to get out of suffering, and you reach there, the end of suffering. You can experience that as a meditator. You can experience as you meditate, as you start noting the objects, as you let go, the mind becomes free. Pain do not follow. And if you grab onto things, they build up, they produce more things, they produce cleaning, they produces pain. So there are other types of joy and happiness that are wholesome. We'll go to that later on. There are other feelings, wholesome feelings, that are joy and happiness, as well as equanimity too, that are wholesome. We go to that too. I have to learn to recognize them, and then first we'll go through the 5 hindrances in the Dhammanupassana before we go to the wholesome ones. So I'll stop here for tonight. And any question regarding the talk or your meditation? Problem you may ask. Yes. Yes, any question?
Yes, you mentioned that craving is for the pleasure feeling.
Yeah.
But there are some cases like Stockholm syndrome with the patient or the people that craving for those tortures, and then there's some
for pain, you mean, craving for pain.
Yes, and then people also don't know whether what they want actually. So
yes, so we call that deranged mind. When pleasure comes to the highest level, then the mind takes pain as pleasure. So we call that a deranged mind, a crazy mind, takes delight in pain. The pain from his own body or own self, or the pain from another body, another self. So there is a limit to the worldly pleasure or pain or happiness. When it reaches to the highest level, then the mind goes crazy. It takes pain as pleasure. So we call them lunatic. They're crazy because that's the nature of this mind. It cannot go any further anymore. Then it goes into pain. Like a person is so happy, he starts to cry. You say, why are you crying? Because I'm so happy. He has reached that level of happiness that he can't be more happy than that anymore. Then he starts to cry, and he say, why are you crying? I cry of joy. It's very strange. People cry because of pain, because of suffering, but this guy cry because of joy. Mind has the nature of this mind. It can't go beyond. It has a certain level, and after it touching the level, then it takes enjoy in pain. So deranged mind, we call them a crazy mind. Actually, it is the nature of this mind. Because happiness, only reaching to a point, and then it falls down from that point. Yes. Good question. Yeah. Very good question. That is why you see people like to see another person suffer, and it takes delight in the suffering of another person. Something like a deranged mind. But it is not exactly the same meaning as the enjoyment. Any question? No question? Take good care of yourselves. See you next week. Be well, peaceful, and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.